The Bible's scary secret to a fearless life, the wisdom of Proverbs. We live in the age of information. At any given moment, the accumulated knowledge of human history is right here in the palm of our hands. We have access to endless tutorials, articles, expert analyses, and step-by-step guides for literally everything from how to build a business to how to be happy. We have more knowledge than any generation that has ever walked the earth. And yet, look around, look within. Are we any wiser? Why is it that with all this information, so many of us still feel lost? Why do we make decisions that we know will harm us? Why do we get caught in cycles of foolish behavior, broken relationships, and deep anxiety despite having all the answers at our fingertips? It seems there is a vast, cavernous gap between knowing the right thing to do and having the actual wisdom to do it. We can download an encyclopedia, but we can't download character. We can stream a lecture, but we can't stream integrity. This disconnect, this painful gap between our knowledge and our actions leads us to one of the most ancient and profound books on practical living ever written, the Book of Proverbs. And at the very entrance to this treasure house of wisdom, we find a gatekeeper, a principle so foundational, so critical that without it, all other knowledge becomes useless, even dangerous. This principle is stated plainly in Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Now, let's be honest. For many of us, that phrase, the fear of the Lord, is uncomfortable. It can feel jarring, archaic, even toxic. It conjures images of a tyrannical deity, a cosmic dictator demanding that we cower and tremble before him. It sounds like something that breeds anxiety, not wisdom. We live in a culture that tells us to eliminate fear, to be fearless. So how can the very foundation of wisdom be rooted in fear? This brings us to the crucial question we must answer today. What if our modern understanding of fear has blinded us to one of the most life-giving and liberating truths in the entire Bible? What if the fear of the Lord is not about being scared of God, but about something else entirely, something that holds the key to unlocking true wisdom, peace, and a fearless life? Welcome, my friends, to Biblical Wisdom SP. Today, we are going to deconstruct and reclaim this powerful, misunderstood concept. We will see that this fear is not the cowering of a slave before a master, but the awe-inspired reverence of a creature before their creator. It's the respect an astronomer feels when peering into the unfathomable depths of a nebula. It's the profound humility a doctor feels in the presence of the miracle of life. It's the healthy respect an electrician has for a live current, not a paralyzing terror that keeps him from doing his job, but a deep awareness of its power that allows him to work safely and effectively. To fear the Lord is to live with a constant moment-by-moment awareness of who He is and who you are in relation to Him. It's to see the world not with yourself at the center, but with God at the center. It's to understand that He is the source of reality, the author of the moral law, the very definition of love and goodness. This fear is not about being afraid He will crush you. It's about being so in awe of His majesty, goodness, and power that you are afraid to live your life outside of His presence and His will. It's the fear of walking away from the only source of light in a universe of darkness. This perspective changes everything. When God is the ultimate reality, then His word becomes more than just good advice. It becomes the manufacturer's instructions for human flourishing. His commands are not arbitrary rules. They are guardrails on the highway of life, designed to keep us from driving off a cliff. Think of it like this. A wise ship captain fears the sea. He doesn't hate it. He doesn't cower in the port. He studies its currents, respects its power, and understands its laws. This healthy fear is what allows him to navigate it skillfully and bring his ship safely to its destination. A foolish captain, on the other hand, despises the sea's power. He is arrogant, ignores the charts, and sails directly into the hurricane. He lacks fear, and that lack of fear leads to his destruction. The Book of Proverbs tells us that in the sea of life, God is the ultimate reality. The wise person fears the Lord. They study his character, respect his laws, and align their life with his reality. The fool, as Proverbs 1-7 says, despises wisdom and instruction. The fool wants to be his own God, to make his own rules, to navigate the sea of life according to his own fleeting feelings and flawed understanding. So, the fear of the Lord is our starting point. It's the fundamental posture of the heart that says, God, you are God, and I am not. It is the humble admission that true reality begins and ends with him. But how specifically does this posture become the beginning of knowledge? What is the mechanism that transforms this attitude of awe into practical, everyday wisdom? The answer lies in how it reorients our entire foundation for learning. In our last block, we began to reclaim the true meaning of the fear of the Lord. We moved away from the idea of cowering terror and toward a vision of profound, orienting awe. It's the healthy respect for reality that allows a ship's captain to navigate the ocean or an electrician to handle a powerful current. It's the foundational posture that places God at the center of our universe. Now we must dig deeper into that foundational verse. Proverbs 1-7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, and fools despise wisdom and instruction. The key word here is beginning, in Hebrew, reshith. It means the start, the first principle, the headwaters from which everything else flows. Why is this awe of God the absolute starting point for all true knowledge? Because it establishes the correct foundation for reality. Imagine trying to learn geography on a flat Earth. You could memorize the names of all the cities and oceans, but your fundamental understanding would be completely wrong. Your knowledge would be built on a false premise, and it would fail you the moment you try to navigate the globe. In the same way, any pursuit of knowledge that does not begin with God as the ultimate source of truth, meaning, and morality is like trying to do geography on a flat Earth. You are starting with a fundamentally flawed map of reality. A person who does not fear the Lord places themselves at the center of their universe. Their feelings become the ultimate arbiter of truth. Their desires become the highest moral good. Their limited understanding becomes the measure of all things. The fool described in Proverbs is not a person with a low IQ. The fool is a person, brilliant or not, who has built their life on the wrong foundation themselves. When you begin with the fear of the Lord, you are accepting that there is an objective, transcendent source of truth. You are admitting that morality is not something we invent, but something we discover, something woven into the fabric of reality by a holy and loving Creator. This is the ultimate paradigm shift. It means that when we read the Bible, we aren't just reading ancient advice, we are reading the designer's manual for the human soul. When we seek to understand justice, love, or purpose, we don't start with shifting public opinion, we start with the unchanging character of God. And this is the beginning of knowledge. It's the prerequisite. It's installing the correct operating system before you try to run any programs. Without this OS, every piece of data you input will be processed incorrectly, You might learn facts about biology, but you'll miss the wonder of the designer. You might learn principles of economics, but you'll miss the call to justice and generosity. You might learn techniques for communication, but you'll miss the sanctity of truthfulness. Your knowledge will be a collection of disconnected facts without a central unifying purpose. It will be a house built on sand. Now look at the second half of the verse. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. Why do they despise it? Because wisdom and instruction from God always demand humility. They demand that we submit our will to a higher authority. The fool who has made himself a god cannot tolerate this. To accept instruction from God would be to admit he is not God. His pride is the very thing that locks him out of the house of wisdom. He loves his own knowledge so much that he despises the only foundation that could make his knowledge meaningful. This is a profound diagnostic tool for our own hearts. When we encounter a command from God in Scripture that chafes against our desires, what is our first reaction? Do we humbly ask, God, help me understand and align my heart with your wisdom? Or do we proudly declare, that doesn't work for me, I know better? That reaction reveals whether we are standing at the beginning of the path of wisdom or on the path of the fool. The fear of the Lord, then, is the ultimate reality check. It decentralizes us and recenters us on God. It provides the only solid ground upon which a life of true knowledge can be built. It is the humble admission that we are not the author of the story, but a character within it, and true fulfillment comes from learning to play our part in the author's grand narrative. So we've established that the fear of the Lord is the foundation for knowledge. It's the starting block. But Proverbs takes us even deeper. A few chapters later, in Proverbs 9 to 10, Solomon gives us a parallel statement that adds a crucial new layer to our understanding. It explains how this foundational knowledge is transformed into something even more valuable, true wisdom. It introduces a new element that moves us from principle to relationship. We've established the ground floor. The fear of the Lord, this posture of reverent awe, is the beginning of knowledge. It's the solid foundation, the true map of reality upon which everything else must be built. But having a foundation is one thing. Building a beautiful, functional house upon it is another. Having a map is one thing. Skillfully navigating the terrain is another. This is the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing facts. Wisdom is skillfully and righteously applying those facts to life. Knowledge is knowing that fire is hot. Wisdom is using that fire to cook a meal and warm a home rather than burning the house down. The Book of Proverbs is not primarily about accumulating facts. It is about cultivating wisdom, the art of skillful living. This brings us to our second key verse, Proverbs 9:10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. This looks very similar to 127, but there's a critical development here. First, it states that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, the skillful application, but then it adds the mechanism, and knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. The word here for knowledge is the Hebrew word da'ath. This is not just intellectual awareness. Da'ath often implies a deep, personal, relational, and experiential knowledge. It's the same root word used to describe how a husband knows his wife. And this is not about knowing about God, it is about knowing God. This is the secret that transforms information into transformation. The fear of the Lord gets you in the door. It sets the foundation. But it's the ongoing, intimate, relational knowledge of the Holy One that gives you the understanding to live wisely day by day. How does this work in practice? When you are in a relationship with someone, you begin to learn their character. You learn what pleases them, what grieves them. You learn their heart. As we grow in our relationship with God, through prayer, through His Word, through fellowship, we begin to gain knowledge of the Holy One. We learn His heart. We see His passion for justice, His love for the poor, His hatred of pride, His delight in humility, His unwavering faithfulness. This intimate knowledge then becomes our internal compass for skillful living. Let's make this practical. A financial decision, knowledge might tell you how to maximize your return on investment, but wisdom, born from the knowledge of the Holy One, asks different questions. And is this venture built on integrity? How does this decision affect the poor? Am I being a generous steward of what God has given me? Your relationship with a generous God transforms your financial wisdom. A conflict with a friend. Knowledge might give you debating tactics to win the argument, but wisdom, born from knowing a merciful and gracious God, prompts you to listen, to seek reconciliation, and to offer forgiveness even when it's hard. Your intimate knowledge of a peacemaking God informs your relational wisdom. A career choice. Knowledge can show you the path with the highest salary and most prestige. But wisdom, born from knowing a God who has a purpose for your life, encourages you to ask, where can I best use my gifts to serve God and others? How can my work be an act of worship? Your understanding of God's mission gives you vocational wisdom. Do you see the pattern? Wisdom is not a checklist of rules. It is the fruit of a relationship. The fear of the Lord keeps us oriented to Him as the source, and the knowledge of the Holy One is the relational stream from which all practical understanding flows. It's what allows us to navigate the endless gray areas of life, not with a rigid rule book, but with a heart tuned to the heart of God. Lady Wisdom, personified in Proverbs 8, says, I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. This is an invitation to a dynamic relationship. Wisdom is not a cold, abstract principle. It is a warm, personal reality found in the presence of the Holy One. So, the fear of the Lord is the foundation. Relational knowledge of God is the curriculum, and wisdom is the skillful practice. But what is the outcome? What are the tangible results, the real-world benefits of building your life on this foundation? Proverbs doesn't leave us guessing. It paints a vivid picture of the end game for a life lived in the fear of the Lord, and it's a climax that trades fear for the one thing we all desperately seek: life itself. We have journeyed to the very core of biblical wisdom. We started by dismantling a common misconception, transforming fear from cowering terror into orienting awe. We saw how this awe is the only solid foundation for true knowledge. We then discovered that an intimate relational knowledge of God is what transforms that knowledge into wisdom, the divine art of skillful living. But the question remains, what's the point? What are the tangible fruits of this life? Is it just a life of restriction and duty? The Book of Proverbs shouts a resounding no. The final beautiful paradox is that a life that begins with the fear of the Lord ends in a state of profound security, peace, and abundance. This principle, which sounds so severe, is actually the secret to human flourishing. Let's look at the incredible promises, the payoff that Proverbs attaches to this foundational principle. First, protection from harm. Proverbs 14:27 declares, "The fear of the Lord is a fountain of life, turning a person from the snares of death." A fountain of life. This is an image of constant, refreshing, life-sustaining power. How does it work? By living in reverent alignment with God's design, you naturally develop an instinct for what leads to life and what leads to death. The snares of death in Proverbs are things like addiction, destructive relationships, prideful ambition, greed and dishonesty. A life oriented around God's wisdom gives you the discernment to see those traps from a mile away and the strength to walk around them. This fear doesn't lead you into a cage, it saves you from one. Second, deep contentment and peace. Proverbs 19:23 promises, "The fear of the Lord leads to life, then one rests content, untouched by trouble." This doesn't mean bad things will never happen. It means that when they do, they cannot touch your core identity and security. When you fear God, you cease to fear man. You cease to fear failure. You cease to fear the stock market. Your contentment is not tethered to your circumstances because your ultimate security is rooted in the unchanging character of God. You can rest content because you know the one who holds your life is faithful and good. This fear is the antidote to anxiety. And finally, a life of honor and blessing. Proverbs 22:4 is the grand culmination. Humility is the fear of the Lord. Its wages are riches and honor and life. Notice the link. Humility is the fear of the Lord. It's the posture we've been talking about all along. And what are its wages, its payoff? Riches, honor, and life. This is not necessarily a promise of financial wealth, but of a rich and meaningful existence. It promises the honor that comes from a life of integrity respected by God and man. And it promises life, not just biological existence, but Zoe life, a full, vibrant, flourishing existence lived in communion with its Creator. The ultimate climax of our journey is this stunning revelation. The very thing that sounded like the source of terror is, in fact, the only path to a truly fearless life. When your greatest fear is to be out of alignment with the God of the universe, all lesser fears, the fear of people's opinions, the fear of financial loss, the fear of the future, lose their power. You have one great, holy, reverent fear, and it swallows up all the others. This journey into the heart of Proverbs is a call to re-evaluate our foundation. It's an invitation to shift from the shifting sands of human opinion to the solid rock of God's reality. If this deep dive has challenged you, encouraged you, or given you a new lens through which to see your own life, I invite you to join this community. Please click the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss our next study, and give this video a like. It's the simplest way to help this message find others who need to hear it. More than anything, leave a comment below and share your thoughts. How has your understanding of the fear of the Lord changed? And to continue your journey into biblical wisdom, I encourage you to let YouTube suggest the next video for you right here on the end screen. It has a great sense of what you'll find valuable next. As we close, let this thought settle in your soul. Every single one of us fears something. We are wired for it. The question is not if we will fear, but what or who we will fear. You can choose to fear rejection, and so you will become a slave to the opinions of others. You can choose to fear poverty, and you will become a slave to money. You can choose to fear insignificance, and you will become a slave to your own ego. Or you can choose the one fear that sets you free. You can choose to fear the Lord. You can choose to live a life of reverent, loving awe of the God who made you, who loves you, and who designed a path of wisdom for you that leads to a fountain of life. This fear is not a burden to be carried, but a key that unlocks the door to a life of purpose, peace, and ultimate security. It is, and always will be, the beginning of everything that matters. Thank you for joining us on Biblical Wisdom SP. Be blessed and walk in His wisdom.